Hey, Wajeeh.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Where's Malcolm? Is he traveling?
He sent me a message saying if I could set up the live stream and then he would join us. And I said, okay. And then
Okay.
I've been waiting ever since then.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see what it
How are you
this.
doing?
Uh, no, I'm doing. I'm doing well. I had there's some stuff going on in Denmark about Ukraine and blah blah blah. So I had a little. I was a little busy this morning, but yeah. You remember the Nord Stream sabotage? There are all these allegations against the Ukrainians for doing it.
We're still waiting on Malcolm.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see what happens. But yeah, people are logging on. Good, good to see you out there.
Yeah.
I've
300.
got
Oh,
the Dnipro War Museum cup.
I got my made in China hand painted mug. So this is supposedly painted in Italy and made in China.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I saw just after I left Ukraine, Dnipro was hit quite hard by one of the Russian attacks, unfortunately. But yeah,
Damn.
yeah,
The Let me look if there is anything updated in the casualty board, which
yeah.
I there is in the
You're checking the Al Jazeera casualty board. Is that it?
at this second. Yes, I am checking Al Jazeera, and it does look like they have not updated. April 27, so it's updated 2 years, the day before yesterday.
Okay, but they've confirmed, the killing of a number of people. It's just not been you know reported yet by Al Jazeera. Well, it's reported, but the table hasn't been updated. So there's a lot of stuff going on there,
A
unfortunately.
a yeah. And it's all going to reflect on the prices of the oil market here and there.
Yeah,
WTI is at 103.
yeah.
Yesterday
Uh,
it was at
Brent is at its highest point this afternoon since 20, 2022, since the start of Russia's war.
it's $115 for British Brent
Yeah,
crude. Yep,
exactly.
$115. That's quite the number.
So it's gone
And
up $4 since yesterday.
it's crazy. And I think it will continue to go up as countries realize that the peace talks are not going anywhere, and then as they realize that uh
It's not peace talks. It's talks about peace. No, it's talk. It's talk about peace and not peace talks.
let's talk about whether we should have a talk about peace talks.
Yeah. No, but definitely it seems that some messages are still being exchanged. And then yesterday, as we were on, you saw Trump sending out that message that the Iranian regime was breaking down, etc., etc. And then today, a couple of hours ago, he says, "No more Mr. Nice Guy," and now I'm going to set it all on fire, basically. So, which one do you pick today, mate? But yeah,
I
that
have, hold on, I have a comic. I hope I have it here. When I was in the hospital, I found a comic that I ripped off from a
okay.
magazine, and the comic basically had Trump and Trump, and then the American advisors are like, finally, we got them both in the same room to talk to each other.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably voices in his head. Uh, it's, yeah, he's got voices in his head. Yeah, that's why it's just going round and round in circles. But the markets are reading it now, so that's why we see the prices going up, uh, and then we can wonder why they bought into it for so long, which is rather strange.
Yeah, you want to message Malcolm real quick to see if he's coming?
Yeah, but I only got this amateurish setup that so I gotta keep it on my phone here. Will I be able to? I suppose I
Don't.
could. But let's just start. Let's just start, and then does Malcolm? He get when he tries to log on, he comes through to you, right?
Yeah,
Since you
and
organize.
he's already got an invite.
Yeah. So let's just start talking about it, and then we'll see what happens. Whether he's traveling in his secret on his secret trip. And we got
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, let
So
me see if I could pull up a different diff board than Al Jazeera that's updated to today, and give you guys exact numbers here. And then, or do you have significant activities that you would be able to go over?
well, I think the most significant, as I was saying, is actually happening in Lebanon when it comes to military action, where it seems that Israel don't really care about that ceasefire agreement, and they're chipping away. And Hezbollah is trying to get back at them. And it also seems that, Hezbollah has found out that the Israeli forces inside of Lebanon is something that they can use for their own propaganda purposes. So they're really trying to, ignite that situation and hit at whatever Israeli forces. There was a strike near Tyre this morning where they tried to strike armored vehicles, etc., etc. So that's as I've said many times, Hezbollah sees this as an opportunity because they've been under pressure in Lebanon, and they're not terribly popular in Lebanon for understandable reasons. But this presence of Israeli troops is actually something they can use to get back in the limelight and reignite that whole resistance narrative and propaganda. And the big question on that, I guess, is how are the Iranians going to react? What are they going to do to support Hezbollah? And that is hard to say because it also depends how much the U.S. blockade is really hurting them. And there are, some statements back and forth, and a lot of theories out there that Iranian oil production will be harmed because they can't bring it to the market, and they don't have the storage capacity. But then again, I doubted it. We shall see. And if it starts to hurt Iran, then they will escalate, and the situation in southern Lebanon obviously is a pretext that they can use.
I do get a lot of questions, in particularly about Iran's perspective regarding Israel breaking the ceasefire with Hezbollah. Even though the Pakistani Prime Minister did say that the peace talks with the U.S., Israel, and Iran did include Hezbollah in Lebanon. I get a lot of people asking me, why hasn't
Hey,
Iran?
Malcolm.
Welcome. Well, hello.
Malcolm is in the house.
The big
Yeah, well,
boss is
not for long.
back.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
for
Go,
long. Watch.
go
This
on,
is why
Wajeeh. Go on, Wajeeh. You were just saying something.
go on.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Now, I'm getting a lot of people asking me now. They're seeing that Israel is breaking the ceasefire with Hezbollah. I'm having people asking me,
Mhm.
when is Iran going to get more involved with Hezbollah and Israel?
Mhm. Yeah.
Why haven't they been
Oh
involved
no.
more than we are seeing them right now? That's the question I'm getting.
Yeah. No, and as I was
Okay,
alluding to,
it's a good question.
that's a good question, because I think they will, if they're under pressure by the blockade, if, and that's a big if. And it also depends how much the Israelis are actually doing. But at some point, obviously, the Iranians are likely to feel they need to act, and stay in there and support them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. How about
Okay.
yourself,
Hey guys.
Malcolm?
Well, same thing. Let's just hope that the Iranians don't, because then we'd have very serious trouble on our hands. I don't know if you guys talked about the Wall Street Journal article. By the way, I can only stay for a minute. I'm in a horrible place. Just
Okay.
absolutely. I'm traveling down, across this country, and I'm not in a fixed place every day, except for the next 3 days. Then, for those of you who've already figured out that I'm in the UK, then I'll be in London for 3 days, and I'll have more things. But where I'm at now, it's horrible. Wi-Fi that doesn't exist out here. There's more sheep than there is Wi-Fi. So anyway, yeah, just but go ahead with this discussion, you guys. And the only thing I wanted to contribute today was the now this is geopolitical. So we're going to go by region, right? We're going to do Middle East, Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America if necessary. But with regards to Hezbollah and these ceasefire violations, you saw the Wall Street Journal article that Trump has no intention of ending the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he's going to keep this blockade as long as he can. He's viewing that as his victory. And we're literally counting down to the end of the global economy.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely insane that this is going on. So,
It, I don't know if
he seems
Americans
dead set.
realize the amount of economic hardship that we're causing on our closest allies like South Korea. South Korea depends more than 90% of its energy economy on oil imports and coal burning, electricity, and then their latest help is the nuclear plants, but that's not enough. And now,
Right.
when you're looking at the fact that 90% of their consumption of oil, crude comes from the Middle East, from these GCC countries, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, all their reserves are about to
Yeah.
run out. They're already telling their citizens to have, very short showers. They're telling their citizens to skip the elevators. They're telling their citizens to not turn the AC. Those are really hard policies from a country, a first world country that the world is dependent on when it comes to manufacturing, especially that they are the second largest manufacturer of chip conductors, the smartest chip conductors out there. Korea makes those for us. And if that gets cut off from you guys have no clue what we are facing in the next few months.
This is why we've changed the name from the U.S.-Iran Warcast to the Geopolitical Crisis Cast. I mean, everything now is in crisis because of this war. Everything. And, when I read that article that Trump's intention was to keep the blockade and the war status going, he somehow thinks this is some crazy victory. And it's literally this is why the UAE jumped out of OPEC, right? They're going to crack the economy. And I don't think he cares. You guys, tell you what, you guys discuss that. I have to drop out because I do not have stable data these days, but be sure to put me in the name of the title. So when you do the cooperation, the cooperative thing, then it'll post on mine and yours.
Yeah.
But you guys discuss amongst yourselves. But I think this format of now having to confront these, because I got deeper into what's going on in Africa yesterday. It's going crazy. Oh, by the way, my prediction about Nigeria jumping out of OPEC's next is starting to hold water. Yeah. It's really holding water. And, but the crisis in Europe and Trump going after the Germans today, the French saying that if Israel violates the peace treaties, that they're going to do sanctions against them. I mean, one guy has literally spun this all out of control.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It seems like it. And as we talked about yesterday, Malcolm, Jane in Mali, the Al Qaeda offshoot, they've announced a blockade of Bamako. That in Mali, the Mali capital. So
that's crazy. That's crazy. By the way, my coffee cup today is Diet Coke, and this is. Oh, you can't read that, can you? You can't. So it's St. Austell Brewery. So if you can figure out where I'm at, we'll do that. But I'm going to drop out of here. Tomorrow we're going to reconvene this because I have a fixed location for the next 3 days. And and I should be able to get a shave too. Jesus Christ, I'm all fuzzy. This is how I came out of the trench when I was in the Ukrainian army. And it's huge beard because I couldn't shave for almost 3 months.
But you're in the UK. What's going on?
There's no brother barbers here. I'm in the country, man. I am not out. I am not in the big city. I should have got that done when I was near Manchester. I'm fuzzy. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Keep up this conversation, and I may, when I'm in data, I may just watch your Q&A after this. So get your questions together, all of you who are watching. All right.
The fun fact about OPEC and Russia before you leave.
What's that?
I was really butthurt about the fact that I was almost wrong about Russia not being a member of OPEC. And I went back and I had to do my research. They are a part of the OPEC alliance, but they're not part of the whole OPEC membership.
Well, there's a big giant hole in it now. They can jump right they can fill the Emirates hole.
And they're making bang at the moment. But it's
all right.
Russia and Saudi Arabia has been fighting over OPEC for a minute. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, they have. Okay, guys, knock it out. We'll talk to you later.
See you, Malcolm.
All right. Whoever said Cornwall is correct. See ya. Bye-bye.
I'll see you around.
Yeah. Wajeeh, it's super interesting because I've seen a lot of superficial analysis that the UAE jumping out was because they could transfer more oil to Fujairah, but no, they can't. They can't. The pipeline is almost going at full capacity. So that whole situation with them wanting to increase their capacity and not stay within the current limits is for later, it seems. So they won't be able to relieve the market of pressure.
No, no. Even the fact that the United States is selling its own oil to foreign markets, which a lot of foreign markets are jumping on. That oil that they're selling, number one, was supposed to go to U.S. refineries so it could fund the U.S. market, because 90% of the oil that the United States produces, United States consumes. Just few percentage of that the United States sells, and because the United States looks at its oil consumption and oil production as a matter of national security, and we are actually bypassing a lot of national security's laws in order to sell the current oil that we have to foreign market. And our oil reserve for our national security is at the national record low numbers. So we really need that to go into our national security stockpile. The other
Yeah.
thing is that the numbers of sale regarding the oil is not going to offset the economic crisis that we have brought onto our economy from increases of prices regarding almost anything and everything else. I wanted to get your opinion on the UAE pulling out of OPEC, because UAE has been constrained with OPEC's numbers for a minute, and I feel like everyone is going to try to sell oil at their own price, at their own pace, away from OPEC. What do you see UAE pulling away from OPEC look like?
Yeah, but that's it for sure. From what I understand, this has been brewing for a while. As I said before, the Emiratis cannot exploit the situation at the moment because they don't have the capacity to put more oil through to Fujairah.
Yeah,
Let me just point for people here. That's the other side of the Strait of Hormuz, where you bypass the Iranian multipass, and they can go straight out in the Gulf of Oman and put the oil to market. So they can't exploit that at the moment. So it's for later, and it's probably also a sign that they realize that their business model is going to be so badly hurt by this war that that whole imagination of Dubai as a big holiday destination, a big travel hub, etc., a big tech hub, is they're probably seeing that go awry. So I suspect they're trying to say, okay, for us, when the Strait of Hormuz opens again, we need to be able to really get our oil to market more efficiently than the other countries, and really, yeah, make bank quickly. Because there's been amongst OPEC countries also this whole, along with Saudi Arabia, etc., this whole idea that we need to diversify. So we need to keep, controls of the oil. But then I think now the Emiratis have lost their nerve, and they wanna be able to exploit whatever they can as soon as they get they're able to take oil to the market. So yeah, that's super interesting. Another aspect also that Malcolm was touching upon is Trump, because he's nuts, but he's not in a vacuum. So politically, pressure on him is also going to increase. And that's what the Iranians know. So all his bluff that he can keep this blockade of Iranian ports going forever is likely to be bluff, because there'll be pressure on him. Prices are rising, and it's not only the price at the pump. It's fertilizer. It's imported goods to the U.S. So everything is getting more expensive. So there will be political pressure on him. And with midterm elections coming up in the fall, I don't want to be a political analyst. All I'm saying is, he's not in a vacuum on this one. I don't think so.
And to follow up on that, like a lot of people don't understand, these pipelines were designed for emergency situations like this.
Yeah.
Meaning they have not been designed for commercial use on a long term to support the whole economy. Before the war started, the UAE Fujairah pipeline daily production would be 1.5 million barrels a day.
Yeah.
Today, with the speeding up of all of that production, it has only been moved up to 2 million barrels of oil a day. That's compared to 110 to 150 millions of barrels that they are used to selling on a regular basis from their regular ports. What I'm trying to tell you is they're selling a fraction of what they are used to sell. That's why they're not making any profit from the current sales, but they are releasing some pressure from the oil market. The interesting thing is that Saudi Arabia needs the price a barrel to make a price profit off of oil to be at least $80 to $90 a barrel. The profit margin for UAE is way less than that. They only need the price of oil to be at $50 a barrel for them to make a profit. So they were happy with the current, status quo before the war. No one is happy right now, because even Saudi Arabia, that has the pipeline from the East Coast to the West Coast, that is also selling only a fraction of the oil that Saudi Arabia has been used to selling.
Is that something like 10% they're replacing through the pipeline to Yanbu, something like that, as far as I can remember?
Correct. That's absolutely correct. And now what you're seeing is that all of a sudden, all the projects that they were planning on keeping, like for example, Saudi Arabia Live Goal, and their other Western investments, you're going to see all of those investments come to an end or come to a pause, and they're going to redirect that funds and investments towards another pipeline that would be under the ground, away from any attacks from the Houthis or any attack from the Iranians, with bigger capabilities to move more oil. But that's going to take years to build. That's not going to be happening in any day or night.
Exactly. Just I don't know. I don't have more on that whole market situation now. There's only one thing about the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know if our viewers have followed it, but there is one significant vessel that has managed to make it through. Went from Dubai over to Oman, and that's a luxury yacht belonging to a very famous Russian oligarch. And it turns out that because they made his spokes people have made a statement. It turns out that the Iranians were fine with this luxury yacht transiting, but guess who was also fine with it? Trump, the Trump administration. So,
well, the Trumps and the Russians, for some reason, are very close. I don't know. You tell me about how close the Russians and the Trumps are.
yeah, I wrote a whole book about it, man. So don't get me going on that one. But clearly, Putin can manipulate Trump. That is clearly, and what I've discovered, the main reasons are financial, actually. But this luxury yacht transited the Strait of Hormuz, okayed by the Iranians, not surprising, but also okay for Trump and his administration.
Not Trump. Malcolm did mention a week or two ago that there was evidence some regular ships being able to cross the strait, like small ships or cruise ships. Cruise ships were able to cross the strait, but something like anything with the products or anything with moving of the oil is definitely going to be paused and stopped.
Yeah. I saw an interesting report also from yesterday, I believe, which is super interesting. And that was a reporter from, I believe, the Telegraph. He had been out right in the strait, also at nighttime, and there were like huge swarms of smaller boats coming from Bandar Abbas and taking goods to the UAE, and also like patrolling the strait to a certain extent. So there's quite an interesting eyewitness account from the strait, right in the middle there. Off of Bandar Abbas. I think it was on CNN actually, where it was aired, so you can look for it. It was in Erin Burnett's show. Now that I remember. But Wajeeh, also the bottom line of all this is actually that as long as this whole situation is going on, it actually strengthens the Iranian regime, and it actually strengthens their hold on power, and the real people that are hit by it. Now, we've talked about it around the world, but also the Iranians. And for sure, the regime is going to try to exploit it and advance that argument, see what these evil Americans are doing. The Jewish crusaders, it's their fault, they're after you, so come and help your government. So a lot of Iranian fence sitters are going to see this as an attack on them, and the regime is going to try to exploit it.
Question: can we go back to Lebanon a little bit?
Yeah. We were talking about that when Malcolm.
Yeah, I feel like we still have things to hash out that we haven't hashed out.
Yeah.
Iran hasn't done much in Lebanon. Is that on purpose?
Yeah. I think that as we discussed that whole situation of when when will the Iranian regime need to support Hezbollah? Because clearly Israel is violating the ceasefire. Clearly they are striking Hezbollah, and Iran needs to show that they help them at some point. So I can't say definitely what is going to change the equation, and how and when the Iranian regime is going to escalate. But it just shows how vulnerable the whole situation is, and it also ties in to that whole idea that Trump has, that this economical pressure will make the Iranians bow, and no, that's not going to happen. And if there's pressure, the Lebanon situation can be used as a pretext, and they'll do something and they'll start escalating.
The peace talks are not even on the same page between the Lebanese and the Israelis, because what would happen is that Israel would make kinetic strikes, or would be 30 kilometers inside Lebanon, and they would be breaking the ceasefire. And then when they were like, okay, let's sit down and talk about how we are going to disarm Hezbollah. You think how are you going to talk about disarming Hezbollah when you're literally at war fighting them militarily?
Yeah, what Lebanese government would be able to do that? And that's also why the Lebanese government has come out and say we're not going to meet with Israel for now. Because they can't do that, and Hezbollah obviously would exploit it domestically to ignite their own fires. And there are also already little reports of Hezbollah challenging some of the other power brokers in the government, and not least the Sunni leaders. So yeah.
And I think the actions of the Israeli soldiers in southern Lebanon against holy sites of Christian holy sites, where they desecrated a lot of Christian holy site figures, that those Christians were the most pro-Israeli factions in Lebanon. Now that Israeli soldiers have attacked their closest allies in Lebanon, they're going like, hang on a second, maybe we don't want to have a peace in this conversation as well. And what you end up having is Israel was sitting down with the wrong side of the team, where they should have been sitting down with the Speaker of the House, the person that represent the Shi'i community in Lebanon. I don't think a lot of people understand that after the French were kicked out, Lebanon was divided into 3 sections. One section's for the Sunnis, one section's for the Shi'is, and one section for the Christians. And the way they divided that is they gave the parliament a parliamentarian position to the Muslims. They gave the Speaker of the House to the Shi'is, and they gave the presidential office to the Christians. Yes, they gave the presidential office to the Christians. Now, they're all actual people that represent the actual government of Lebanon. That way, they have designed a government that has failed since its inception, because everyone disagrees with everyone. Everyone has been denying every other side the actual existence of politics. Michel Aoun himself was not chosen until like a year ago, or a few months.
But the thing is, because what you were telling there is good for our viewers just to understand, because this is what happened, with all the political order that was ushered into place after the end of the Civil War. And suddenly you had an opportunist Christian like Michel Aoun actually siding with Hezbollah. Why? To get political gains, because he wanted to go to the highest office. And, and then suddenly, he went in bed with with the devil, you could say, for his own political gains. And there's been, some terrible examples of that these last 20 years, more or less. I think more or less from 2006 onwards, these things have been going on.
I agree with you. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover before we move to questions?
No, let's do that, Wajeeh. Let's do that. Just wanted to say, because usually Malcolm always talks about the house rules, but thanks a lot to all those people that are pushing the hearts. We got a decent crowd for this, and also please do subscribe by pushing that button up the top where it says Wajeeh Lion and Jacob Kaarsbo, and please do subscribe. We're super happy about that. So I did that a little later than usual, and then we can go to Q&A.
Yes, please like, subscribe, and share. If you're watching on YouTube, you are watching a recording. Go to malcolmnance.substack.com and subscribe to him. He's also traveling around Europe. And he's not in a situation where he could be with us. He messaged me today and he said if I could host the podcast. I said, of course, I would be happy to.
Yeah. And you're more reliable than me, so that's good.
Let's look at questions. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Any questions? I'll give you guys a minute to write your questions.
Yeah, we just we talked about the Mali situation. As questions are coming in, I can say a few words about that. You have the what's known as the JNIM, which is an Al Qaeda offshoot that is threatening now to surround Bamako, the capital of Mali. As we talked about yesterday, this whole situation of Islamist groups in northern Mali has been ongoing for years and years. I've been part of that fight as well from about 2010, I believe, to 2018. And it's gone through various transitions, that whole Islamist current that's in northern Mali, and it's also mixed up with Tuareg and nationalist elements from what they call Azawad, and the global Islamist movement, whether it's Al Qaeda or whether it's ISIL affiliated groups, try to exploit all that. And I didn't get to say it yesterday, but all this happened after we, the West, ousted Muammar Gaddafi. You could say that was stupid, but after all, Gaddafi was going to slaughter the population of Benghazi. And that was why there was a Western-led air campaign that eventually led to the killing of Muammar Gaddafi by Libyan forces. But what came afterwards was this huge power vacuum in Libya. And that was also why a lot of Tuareg from Libya went over to Mali. And we could follow that whole smuggling scenario, the transfer of Islamist fighters, because there was a huge power vacuum, both in northern Mali and in Libya, and also northern Niger. So, I could tell you about that for a long time, but Wajeeh, any questions coming in?
Yes, the next question would be, Have you seen what's happening in Libya? Are Western markets trying to tap into the Libyan oil market? Did you see anything about that?
No, I haven't seen that. I think I don't know. Maybe you know that better than me, Wajeeh, about the oil flow from Libya, who controls it, and how it's managed. Because I guess it's not in a complete power vacuum. Although Libya is a fluid place. Let's let's just call it fluid, and
Libya literally has open slavery market. I don't know if you know this,
yeah,
but their black market is so wide and open. They will have an open human slavery market like that you would see back in the old days exists in Libya. So having black market for oil is not surprising either for me. There is been a constant conflict over power ever since the fall of Muammar al-Gaddafi, who has had a chokehold over the Libyan political system for decades. Muammar al-Gaddafi's son was assassinated this past year, who was running
yeah,
for office and
that's
had
right.
a good population. This is just to give you an idea that the demand over or the vacuum of power is shifting constantly in Libya. And
Mm.
as that
Yeah.
is shifting, that creates a perfect window for a lot of black market deals to happen. With the shortages of oil, a lot of people are going to have find this as a perfect opportunity to tap into something that they could get from the Libyans.
Yeah.
The other question, go for it. You have anything to add?
No, no, fully agree. Fully agree. I can talk about Libya for a long time, but then I'll leave that for some other day, and let's move on with question.
Well, one person is asking when is the bombing is going to resume on Iran?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen what Trump put out today. No more Mr. Nice Guy, and then there's a photo of him, where he's standing there with a huge gun and ready to make everything blow up. But essentially, I think he's stalling. They're still transferring, obviously, military capacity to the Middle East, but I think that whole Iranian threat of escalation is also holding him back. So he's in a super hard place. So when and if he will start bombing again, we shall see. But it's an open question, I think.
I don't know if the viewers understand. We have tapped into more than 50% of our
Yeah,
U.S. stockpile, military weapons stockpile, meaning the pad missiles, the TAD missile that you're
yeah,
seeing. 50% of our stockpile is been dissipated.
yeah.
Our regular ammunitions that we use for our F-35s and for our warships, they've all been getting depleted, and getting those ships and getting those uh planes and to re-up, especially with the amount of constraints that the U.S. military is facing from its NATO allies of now don't move this through my base and don't move that through their base. They're having a little bit more difficulties moving all of the weapons they need to the exact position that they need. Number one. Number two, we have run out of so much weapons. We don't have enough weapons to protect Taiwan from China if China invaded Taiwan.
Mm.
That just to put things into perspective for you.
And
So
it's
why haven't they?
especially long range missiles, whether it's tomahawks, whether it's long range air defense missiles for the Patriot system, whether it's air defense missiles for THAAD, another system. It takes American producers somewhere between 1 year to 3 years to make up of that whole stockpile that they had. So they've really been burning down the house, and not only Iranian houses, also their own house to a certain extent. So that's why a lot of people in the U.S. administration are also saying, with the whole Taiwan situation and China, et cetera, and that whole argument that Trump and his administration has been advancing about the threat from China, we need to hold back. So whatever they will choose to do, I don't know, but there's no good way out of this. It's a situation that really stinks.
This is not a good situation. No, not a good situation, and that's why I thought that question about the whether the United States is having, and the fact that the United States hasn't went back to start bombarding Iran tells you how much the U.S. is in a dire situation to keep as much as weapon as they could save, because show them, unforgiving. What was it called? The unconditional. What was the Trump administration going to use? The use the ultimate force, or what was their wording?
I can't remember now, but it was.
You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
ultimate force. Do everything you can to decimate the Iranian military. Well, like that showed us that has nothing that we could do to reach the bunkers that they have in the middle of mountains. There's just nothing we could do. There's nothing you could do.
It's bluff.
Ay. What?
I'm being asked here, does Denmark take American refugees like former soldiers? I'm asking from a friend. We are a very friendly country, and military guys that want to help us are always welcome, I'm sure.
Canada. You don't need to go far. Denmark is an amazing nation with amazing people. But if you only need, to cross the border, Canada is accepting U.S. citizens for asylum. I know that for sure. Canada is accepting U.S. asylum cases. I know people who have crossed the borders and applied for political asylum in Canada who are not Saudis. They're American citizens. They just ran to Canada and said, Canada. We did that.
We're in trouble. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, someone was asking me again about the U.S. Military ships and food supplies and other stuff. Malcolm talked about this a little bit yesterday. I asked him. He said there might be some shortages, or there might be short on food, or soldiers are not going to have their regular your regular care packages that you send to them is just not going to get to the soldiers who are been deployed for more than 200 days. I keep talking about the morale of a soldier being deployed for more than 220 days on a warship. Even outside a warship, being deployed for 220 days is not good for anyone. Like, could you tell us a little bit about deployment and how much time being deployed can take out of the morale of a soldier?
Yeah, that's really something that any military, and especially the American experience from Iraq and Afghanistan, I'm sure tells them, because it really wears down the capacity. So the big issue is to when they deploy forces at the large scale, they need to find a way to replace those forces. And that's where the Americans and all us allies, yeah, we were allies with the US in all those wars. Because we're basically good people, but that's where we failed, to build up indigenous forces. The whole how Saddam Hussein's army was disbanded meant that everything in Iraq had to be built up from scratch,
Yeah.
and that took way too long, etc. The situation in Afghanistan was severely underestimated for the first 5 years, more or less, until 2006, and that allowed the Taliban to regenerate and gain traction and sow all the seed of the big insurgency. So there are various mistakes that have been made in all these wars, and Libya also. As maybe I should do a special for all paying subscribers about all these conflicts I've been involved in, and I can tell you exactly what went wrong, when it went wrong in the different areas. But back to your question, sorry, Waji, because it takes a huge toll on armed forces to be deployed for that long. And when you can't regenerate, it just wears militaries down.
I'm gonna follow up on that. Could you tell us about take us into inside the mindset of a soldier that's been deployed? What are they thinking about if they've been deployed more than 100 days on the battlefield?
Yeah, but basically, most of them think first and foremost about doing their job while they're there. Motivation is I've found was high, even though the circumstances in Iraq and Afghanistan were troublesome, to say the least. But motivation was actually quite high. But it's that hole that it continues, and that you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, that comes back and hits. And with the deployments now is a bit different, because it's at it's the big carriers. And maybe if they don't have the supplies they need, if you don't have a proper chow hall. Now, back in my day in Baghdad, for instance, we'd really train hard and we'd work hard, and then we would reward ourselves by going to the chow hall and eat burgers and ice cream at night whenever we could, and to get all those rewards, because it takes a toll after some months. And if the U.S. military isn't able to, get a good meal to people, etc., then the nerve starts to set in.
Mood starts, people gets really moody, people don't start doing the small tasks that they're supposed to, small mistakes starting accumulating, and then things like the fire that happened, and the laundry room would happen again. These small mistakes would pile up, and then it ends up meaning the loss of American life on the battlefield, just because of how much we have pushed them behind their limits. They're not meant to function for more than 100, 220 days on the battlefield.
Correct.
Look at this. We're at 8:56. We've basically covered the whole hour almost without failure.
Yeah.
Anything
Any more
you
questions?
want to cover? Anything you want to cover before we come to an end?
Just an announcement. I'll be hosting a Q&A for paid subscribers tomorrow night. I'll send out invitations this afternoon. It is afternoon in Denmark, as you know, already. But I'll send out invitations for tomorrow. It'll be at the usual hour, Danish, at maybe 8 or 9 p.m. I'll just make that call shortly. And then I hope as many of you can join me as possible. I'll make an agenda, but it could be that I'll take in some of all this background information about these wars that I have for you, because it also impacts what's happening today. So we could do a grand tour tomorrow.
Jacob, are you on YouTube?
No, I'm not. I'm one of these old bastards that never figured it out and never got. Maybe I should. Maybe I should. I was even talking to someone that convinced me to set up an Instagram account.
You didn't even have an Instagram account.
Oh,
Oh my God.
I'm just an old fart, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to get you a YouTube channel so we can give you more people to listen to what you have to say. Guys, please go to Jacob's channel. Become a paid subscriber. He has a lot of important, valuable information that you can learn from, especially when it comes to U.S. Western Middle Eastern conflict, and especially now, it's really important if you want to learn anything about Trump's conflict with Greenland. Jacob is your guy to go. Jacob is your guy to go to. He
Greenland,
has a lot.
Russia, Ukraine,
Exactly.
all the stuff that sucks.
all the topics that sucks, but you still need the trustworthy source of information. Go to Jacob. Malcolm Nance is not here today because he is traveling, and sometimes when you're traveling, you're at a shitty spot where your internet is not reliable or the situation that you're in is not safe. I don't know. Maybe it's both of them today. I'm really glad that he had a minute to step in and talk to us today. Go to his channel, subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, you are watching a recording. Go to if you're watching this on Malcolm Nance YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to Malcolm Nance. If you're watching that on my YouTube channel, subscribe to mine. Wait until we make a YouTube channel for Jacob. I will make sure we figure that out for him. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you next time.
See all of you. See you, Wajeeh.
I'll see you around.